Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to Abnormal Voyages. My name is David, and today we find ourselves in Wapakoneta, Ohio. We are here to explore the life and legacy of one of the most famous men to ever go into space, Neil Armstrong. So tag along as we blast off with this lunar legend.
We're going to a place that you've never heard of before. It's Abnormal Voyages. You're gonna learn something new. We're gonna open new doors. It's Abnormal Voyages.
The Armstrong Air and Space Museum full experience begins before you even enter the building. Outside, you'll run into several statues of Neil Armstrong at different phases of his life. Few people in history are known throughout the world as well as someone like Neil Armstrong, and his hometown built this here just to honor how great he truly was. Let's get inside. One of the first things we come to here is a timeline with little models, and this actually describes humans' relation with flight all the way from the beginning, the first people to ever go up into the air. It comes all the way down here. You get to see the different innovations as the technology grew until eventually we get to modern day and space travel. It's incredible how far we've come in such a short amount of time. There's also some fantastic art pieces here at the beginning featuring Neil Armstrong that shows some of those hero shots of space, and then an awesome picture of the building with the moon up in the corner. I loved it. Now, space travel in general is something that has captivated the imagination of humanity ever since we looked up and saw the stars. This talked about the dreamers, the people who imagined what fantastical things could be out there, and just how hopeful space exploration could be. Then the other section next to it was the realists, the ones who applied the science and technology to truly make it happen and say, yes, we have hopes for what's out there, and we're going to go find out what exactly it is. Armstrong was a little of both. Neil Armstrong actually had a very strong interest in all things air and space from a very early age. So we begin by looking at his boyhood, including some artifacts that he used to own. Neil Armstrong was born right here in Wapakoneta, Ohio on August 5th, 1930. Neil had a pretty average childhood, though they did move around the state quite a bit as his father was an auditor. Armstrong developed a massive love for flying as early as the age of 2, as that's when his father took him to the Cleveland air races. From that day on, Neil loved everything to do with flight. This plane behind me actually has a very funny story. This was flown by Neil Armstrong when he got his pilot's license. He was only 16 years old when he got that, and as a matter of fact, he had his pilot's license before his driver's license. He was more interested in flying than being down here on Earth. That's a fun little trivia fact, for sure. But I think it's definitely appropriate for a man who would grow up to be famous for his flying. You get a chance here to see some artifacts directly related to his flying, including some charts and other items that he used in his solo flights as he was learning and eventually becoming a master pilot. Neil would move on to earn an aeronautical engineering degree from Purdue University. In 1949, Armstrong would be called up to join the Navy. He was a test pilot, and soon enough, this meant plenty of time up in the sky for him. A lot of people don't know that Neil Armstrong actually saw some time in the Korean War. He flew 78 missions for a total of 121 hours in the air during the conflict. But even while conflicts were going on, there was still a bigger mission ahead of everyone: space. Everybody wanted to be the first to reach that final frontier, though the United States and the Soviet Union were the closest. The science wasn't quite sound enough yet to be sending human beings out there, but there were some very brave test animals that were our first recruits to be sent out there into the stars. One of our favorites that we've talked about before was Ham the chimpanzee. There he is getting all suited up, ready for another mission. The United States had a very strong reputation for being the first in things, but when it comes to space, the Soviet Union managed to stretch ahead, and they became the very first people to successfully launch a satellite into space. Sputnik was launched into space on October 4th, 1957. This was the first of what would eventually be many satellites. So this is a really interesting display here. This talks about how satellites are rotating around the Earth, orbiting. So you push this button here. We're going to take our satellite. The Earth is in the middle. We're going to send our satellite around in space, just like that. And as you can see, it keeps up a pretty nice, consistent rotation there. So he's got a little stuck. I'm going to give it a little nudge. Just there we go. So the satellite will keep spinning around until it loses speed, at which time it's going to start succumbing to the gravity and slowly but surely make it to Earth. So now that the Soviet Union had successfully been the first to push something out there into space, the United States had to catch up. They had to find a way to not only meet that expectation, but go beyond it. Very appropriately, this period of time was referred to as the space race. The United States on one side, the Soviet Union on the other, both furiously trying to one-up the other and achieve domination of this new frontier. There are thousands of stories to be told about this time, and countless heroes that history fondly remembers. But we're, of course, here to talk about Neil Armstrong. Though Sputnik had just launched in 1957, it would be only a short amount of time before they began to send humans into space. Astronauts were trained up and sent out to be some of our very first ambassador into the stars. And of course, who would want to fly out into the stars more than Neil Armstrong? For someone who had a lifelong love of aviation and flight, space was what he dreamed of. And soon enough, he made that dream into a reality. An incredible piece of history here. This is Neil Armstrong's actual spacesuit that he wore into space on the Gemini mission. And it is in great shape considering how old it is and all the things that it has been through. It is, honestly, it is almost breathtaking just being here, getting to see this in person. On March 16th, 1966, Neil Armstrong would travel into space for the very first time aboard the Gemini 8. This mission would last for just a little bit under 11 hours and was the 14th crewed American flight of all time. Even though it was all done in less than a full day, this was Neil Armstrong's dream coming true. He had finally gotten to go to space. Another national treasure from the Gemini mission. This is the Gemini 8 capsule that Neil Armstrong was in when he went up into space. This is the actual one, no replica here. This is it. And then if you want to find out more information, the museum has this awesome screen here where you can hit about the mission and learn all about that, all the different things that they did, the docking procedures. You can hit crew here to find out exactly who was on that. And there's our boy, Neil Armstrong, right there. Just getting into space wasn't one-upping enough, though. The United States really wanted to pull off something special, and that was landing on the moon. Thus, the Apollo missions began. On July 16th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin would walk on the moon. Of course, being the first man to walk on the moon was a huge achievement. It sent waves throughout the entire world. This is a collection of newspaper articles from all over, all talking about that legendary, famous day. Incredible how this was covered, all the different pictures of his life. Overnight, Neil Armstrong became a national hero. Here's a sampling of all the honors and awards that rained down on those famous men who went off on the Apollo 11 spaceflight. This truly was a giant leap for mankind, and they became heroes to the entire world. And though Apollo 11 was the first to land on the moon, they most certainly were not the last. The Apollo missions continued all the way up to Apollo 17 in 1972. And though it's been quite a while since we've been there, there are currently plans for the Artemis mission to once again bring astronauts out to the moon. Of course, one absolute must for the museum is a genuine moon rock. This small, beautiful piece is straight from the moon and is an amazing lunar sample. Brave men like Neil Armstrong have merely started the pathway. Going to the moon was a huge endeavor and a major accomplishment. But there is so much more that lies out there for us to discover. There are countless planets and worlds just waiting for new explorers and new heroes to land there and forge their own stories. And who knows, maybe even you will be one of those people. It would certainly be quite a big adventure. Well, that's all from the moon for today. Just remember, no matter what your dreams may be, they are always possible. My name is David, and this has been Abnormal Voyages. Thanks for tagging along. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching Abnormal Voyages. Thanks for watching.